What's up, everybody? We're back with the Hash interview series. It's Hash. We got a good one prepared for y'all, so I hope y'all ready.
I'm Kezia. It's great to be back. And today we have Dr. Gnaka, who will be our guest for today.
Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Gnaka Lagoke. I teach history and Pan-African studies at Lincoln University. And then I am promoting a new dispensation of Pan-Africanism that stands upon the Ubuntu philosophy.
And before we get into it, y'all heard that Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, so you already know, gotta show love, gotta give an extra emphasis on that shout out, the nation's first degree grant at HBCU, so yeah. A Lincoln man right here, two Lincoln men, you feel me, And where are you from?
I'm from Bryn Mawr College.
College.
Originally, I'm from Kenya, Nairobi. And I'm a rising sophomore, and we are part of the 2024 LTT Fellows, and that's an exciting part of my journey this year.
Yes, so right now we're sitting in the Simli Radio Center in Dallung, Ghana, so yes. But let's get straight into the interview. Can you please introduce yourself? And I'm losing it. Hold on, I didn't even do that. I'll cut that. Okay, so chill. This is the bloopers. This is okay. We'll just keep it rolling. So we're gonna get back into the interview. So the first question I have for you is, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and one of your favorite childhood memories?
Okay, I am from the Ivory Coast, and it's a French-speaking country close to Ghana in West Africa. Memory. It looks like it was like 2 centuries ago. Let me remember. I think one day I was playing football or soccer, and then one of my brothers or maybe a sibling came like rushing or running and say, you know what? There's somebody, there's a visitor who came to see our father, and then they want to see you. So, and I rushed, ran, and then when I saw myself in front of the guy and my father, I heard the guy saying to my father, this is him, or that's him. And then I asked, so what does it mean? And the guy had told my father that among all the boys that he had, only one was going to succeed in life. And then, so all my brothers passed before the guy, and then he said for each one of them that it was not the person he was talking about, so they had to go and look for me. And then, so that is a memory when I was a child.
Oh, sounds
That's
like
deep.
like King David and the prophet who came to anoint him.
Yeah, that's deep.
I think I'll go straight into one of the deep questions we have for you.
Wait, 1 second. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on how you felt in that moment? Because I feel like you just dropped a bomb, and with what you said, there's pressure that comes with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And
so
as a kid,
yes, okay.
what?
Yeah, so when I heard that, so when the guy was, I think he was a Muslim or what, he was like a mystic, some spiritual guy. So he gave some cowrie shells to my father, my mother, and then I was asked every night before sleeping to say something, positive words. I want to be great. I have to be great. I have to be this. So I was like maybe 7, 8, I don't remember. So maybe 9, I don't remember. So this, of course, I had a sense of responsibility or duty or leadership when I was when I was a child. And then with my mother's education, who was telling me that I needed to be someone great, I needed to succeed in life. There were things that I could not do as a child, things that I could not do as a teenager. And somehow, I had a kind of education, but I think that sometimes that it comes with a regret, or sometimes it looks like I have not lived my teenage moment the way I could or the way I should. But the good side is that, when you have an idea of what you can do in life, or that you can be seen as somebody who has who's supposed to have a great sense of leadership or responsibility of duty, then it can give you a kind of preparation and advantage compared to other kids of your generation.
So did your siblings start treating you different? And for
Yes.
them, obviously, that had to be hard to hear. So did you feel like it was kind of a decline of?
No, I would say I don't know what you mean by decline, but in the reaction, of course, envy and jealousy. And I think this time is not David anymore.
Joseph.
Okay, Joseph. So yeah, there was envy and jealousy, but somehow we managed to survive those moments.
Right. Great. So my question for you would be, you grew up in Ivory Coast. From what I know, at a time when the nation was still young, and the country during your childhood went through different optimisms. For example, the Ivorian miracle in its economy, and then at the same time, there's still challenges in the economy that came up, and different political upheavals. So what memories from your early life during this time shaped your perspectives and your career path, and how?
Yeah, so I think that I am really I've been giving interviews for more than 10 years, and then so the questions that I'm hearing, that is the first time I'm hearing those questions. I just wanted to commend you for you to be so young and be so brilliant and so bright. So I have to sit up because I was not prepared for those questions. So I think
We
I have to
tried to
call.
warn them.
I
We
think
tried
I
to
have
tell
to have
them.
to try and be ready because it's going to be serious stuff.
Yeah, we tried to
Okay,
tell
so when I'm in a country, I think to be honest, it was a book that changed me. It was book even before what you were talking about. It was a book. I think I was 15 or so, and then I read a book written by somebody.
Can you share the book or
Yes,
you?
the attempt against Hitler, July 20, 1944. It was a coup d'état attempt led by General von Stauffenberg, maybe 400 or 500 pages. And then when I read that book, it completely changed me because I was exposed at that early age to world affairs because we're talking about Hitler, we talk about World War II, we talk about people in Germany who saw that Hitler was taking Germany to a moment of collective suicide, and then who wanted to prevent that to happen. He did a coup d'etat, and it did not work, and he was defeated. The revenge of Hitler. And then, when I read that book, it completely changed me. And then I became, Hitler became a subject of intellectual curiosity for me. So I was like, wanted to read about him. I wanted to know how he came to power. So this is how. And then when I was there, I had like less interest in like regular schooling because anything I wanted to do it was about reading about history, world history, politics, and international affairs. And of course, later on there were some moments in the country, and then because of my commitment to freedom and justice, then at that early age, I was exposed to ideas of freedom and justice and also ideas of unity of Africa. And then that's why when people were talking about the Ivorian miracle, I was not so excited because we knew that it was one aspect of the narrative which was contrary to, which was different from the reality we were living in. The first president of the country comes from an ethnic group which is Baule, a part of a greater ethnic group which is the Akan group that you can find in Ghana and some other places in West Africa. His understanding of politics was that his ethnic group was chosen to rule the country. So therefore, people like me, I don't come from that ethnic group. I was opposed to that injustice and that way of seeing things. And then I was just a rebel as a teenager, opposed to the system. Everywhere I was going, I was just denouncing the regime. So this is how I grew up. And then, yes, later on, when I became a student, it was no surprise that I was involved in that strike, and I was one of the leaders. And then one of the claims is that we wanted freedom and multi-party system in the country.
Great. And just a follow-up question from that is, how do you think growing up in this period of time differs from the experiences of someone born at a later time, and what impact do you believe this has on like how you view the world and your professional focus as well?
Yeah. So even though I was talking about the injustices, those who came after me or after us, I think they have like a more difficult life as students. Yeah, because before my generation, those who were going to school, they had scholarship from elementary school to university. But now the population was the student population was growing. So we did that. That's a spirit. So people were fighting for freedom everywhere. So I was involved emotionally in those struggles. And then I had a scholarship when I went to college. And then, but I had friends who didn't have any scholarship. So the times were really difficult. And then one of the reasons why we could do the strike is that there was money embezzlement, people misused the resources of the country, and now we wanted to live also a comfortable life like many other people in the world. But the resources were used for or by an elite, not for the elite. And then people have to take to the street. We did it, but there were leaders of the opposition who were always also organizing for them, to claim more commitment, like it for the future of the country. So all those things, of course, led me to be exposed to leaders who wanted freedom and justice in Africa. Mandela was one of them in prison, Rawlings in Ghana, Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, and Fidel Castro in Cuba, and then, of course, Kwame Nkrumah was talking about the United States of Africa. So this is how, this is how I can talk about my ideological maturity or maturation during that journey.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question. And my question for you is, what is the biggest misconception that you would like to debunk about Africa? And how has your experience growing up in Africa shaped your understanding of addressing broader international perceptions of Africa?
Yeah, so people have the feeling that in Africa we gave up. And I've seen that many Africans even think like that. That Africans, we gave up. We think that the Europeans have won, they're superior, everything, there's nothing that can be done. One of the things that I saw studying Africa, living as an African, is that the history of Africa and its people has always been about fighting. It has always been about resilience. The women who work in the farms and who walk like many kilometers, and then to go and do work and work in the farms. The people, be in Nairobi, in Kampala, be in Ivory Coast, in Accra, who do not have the support of the respective governments, but still try to organize and then create their own small businesses and compete against the multinationals and still make like they can still make money. For me, people have to try and flip the script, and they have to change the lenses and know that the history of Africa has always been about justice, freedom, and also about resilience. This is what I can say about that question.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that. What strategies did you find most effective in challenging and changing the often negative or simplistic views of Africa held by the international community?
The first thing is that, of course, there are many things that in Africa that I don't like. We talk about that here during this journey. But Listen, when I give my classes or when I give I do teaching and then I have interviews, one of the things that I do is to try and flip the script. How do we flip the script? If people want to tell you that in Africa we don't have, there's nothing good that can come from Africa. But I know that from the 15th century to today, there are stories and narratives and accounts of movements, journeys, processes of people who have done what they could do, and then there's the personal histories are about people who have defied all odds, people who came and changed the history of their respective regions, and people who came and changed the history of Africa. I'm going to give you an example. You were talking about David and Joseph. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to start with Nelson Mandela. I'm going to start with Kwame Nkrumah, and I'm going to talk about Senegal. Mario Vargas Llosa, that is the name of the guy. He had a Nobel Prize, I think in literature. No, Mario Vargas Llosa, I don't know what he comes from Latin America. He wrote one of the pieces, one of the most brilliant articles on Nelson Mandela, saying that the type of story, Mandela's life story, it is only in the Bible that you can see similar stories. Somebody who spends 27 years in prison as he was fighting for freedom for 27 years, and then his resistance, his resilience with others. And then they led the entire world to come and support them in the struggle, and they defeated a system that was built for 300 years. Only in the Bible you can see similar stories. And that Mandela is an African. So how I do it? I try to bring some more light on a common story, but the people, so that I can lead people to have a different interpretation. He came out of prison, 4 years of negotiation and violence caused by others, and he became effectively a president. George Washington, I think he was in power for two terms in the United States. The first president of the United States. Mandela, only one term. Who spent 27 years in prison. He could have been there for 15 till he died. But no, after one term, after leading the country from the apartheid system to a multiracial democracy, he left power. That is a beautiful story. People say, oh, there are not many people like Mandela. But guess what? Kwame Nkrumah, the leader of Ghana, he was in prison. Listen to this. He was in prison. His name was on the ballot. And he won the election. The British colonizer had to free him. And this is how Kwame Nkrumah, from prison, he became the head of the government business. Where have you seen that kind of story? In the Bible, with Joseph, who came from prison and became what? Number 2 of Pharaoh. So this is when I talk, this is how I talk. And then ministers, we can talk about king, the only one, because in America we have President Day. All the 45 or 46 presidents of America, there's one day we celebrate them. King alone. People celebrate him in the United States because of what his enduring legacy. So this is what we do when we talk. We want to talk and give we want to bring a new light on the information that people know, and show that, the history of Africa and its people is about resilience, it's about beauty, it's about heroism, it's about courage, it's about bravery, and we are there irrespective of the systems of oppression, exploitation, slavery, colonialism, neocolonialism, and liberalism. We are still there. We don't diminish, we just multiply.
Nice. It's amazing. My next question would be, we touch on your role and your dedication, your life dedication towards Pan-Africanism. According to a 2023 Voice of America article, Africa has seen the largest number of coups in the world with roughly 220 coup attempts. And how do you view the relationship between these political upheavals and the goals of Pan-Africanism?
Okay, that's a great question. We can spend like 5 hours on that, but I'm going to take no more than 3 minutes on that. So
Right.
quickly.
Oh, before you answer,
okay.
I think I'd also like to include if you could share why you think these coups have persisted despite the efforts of leaders that have been fought for, including by, you in your generation.
Okay, I don't know if I understand the question. If I don't, you can correct me. Okay, there was a time there were people organized different coups. One of the most infamous coup was that which overthrew Kwame Nkrumah, that coup d'etat, February 24, 1966. So based on what people said, Nkrumah became more authoritarian, and then the country did not have any resources, that he misused the resources, to advance the cause of Pan-Africanism. Many other things people say. Somehow people thought it was justified for Kwame Nkrumah to be overthrown. But there were so many coups d'etat in Africa, people did just because they wanted to take power. Or people did those coups d'etat just because the United States did not want nationality leaders to be in power, the United States or Europeans, all of them. But in recent years, we saw that there was a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger. I'm going to talk about those three. So what happened? There were some puppet leaders, leaders who were not doing what they were supposed to do. And then they had the support of friends. And then they were not fighting against terrorism because terrorism was killing or still killing people. And then at the same time, they were not meeting the needs of the people. So there were people organized. They took to the streets in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Niger in order to get rid by a popular citizen-led movement those respective leaders. It was in the context of those movements, the street movements, the citizen-led movements, that officers in Niger, in Burkina Faso, and in Mali took power. So when people say that they're against coup d'etat, that type of coup d'etat, first of all, most of them, they were bloodless compared to what people used to do. And number two, those coups had the popular support of the people in those countries. Number three, why those coups were different, those who are in leadership position now in those countries are opposing neo-colonialism by the French and by the Europeans. Somehow they appeared to be nationalist leaders who are claiming the sovereignty of Africa and who want Africans to enjoy their resources and who want the exploitation of the resources to be done by Africans, not to the detriment of the people. So that's why when people come, it's cool, they have to do an election and they have to leave. That's why people like me, we say, no, we are dealing with a different type of things about those coups, and the people have to acknowledge that, and they should not put all of them in the same basket. So that is this is what is happening.
Okay.
Great.
So we're going to go in a different direction. I want to go back to you mentioning that you're a professor at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. For those of you who do not know, Kwame Nkrumah, he mentioned earlier, first president of Ghana, he actually attended Lincoln University of Pennsylvania with the later first president of Nigeria, Nnamdi Azikiwe. So my question to you is, can you tell us about the significance of Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, and what does it mean to you to be a professor at the university with a legacy like Lincoln's?
Lincoln University was created 1854, and then as an Ashmun Institute, and Since the creation of the university or the institute, which was going to become later on a university, we saw that institution was involved in a very important movement and aspect in the history of black people. The Back to Africa movement. People were trying to relocate former slaves in different parts or some parts of Africa. The British had started to do the same thing with Sierra Leone, and the American Colonization Society and some other blacks were in support or in favor of such an initiative, like on the coast of what is called today Liberia. So the Christianization of Africa, the creation of black-led republics, and then the escape from the nightmarish environment which was the United States in the age of segregation, not even segregation, the age of slavery, because we talk about 1854 and so on, so because slavery officially was going to be banned in the year 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation was 1863. So this was the environment. So even though the institute was involved in a colonizing mission of some part of Africa, but there was a noble aspect of people wanting to return to Africa, but and then to contribute somehow to the welfare or the well-being of the people. So we have to see the paradox, those two, colonizing aspect, but at the same time, the willingness to do something that was right. Many died. Some survived. And then since that moment, or since that time, there will be time after time, generation after generation of many, which is true, who came from Africa to study at Lincoln University or to study in some other schools, the Tuskegee Institute or Booker T. Washington, just to give you an example. But before Booker T. Washington welcomed Lincoln University, people were going to Lincoln, South Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and some other parts. And this is how Azikwe, Nnamdi Azikwe that Ash just spoke about, who entered Lincoln University before Kwame Nkrumah. He was going to be one of the first to teach black studies or Negro studies at Lincoln University. He was going to be the one to guide Nkrumah for Nkrumah to go to Lincoln University. And when Nkrumah was going there, according to what he said in his autobiography, 1935, it was when Ethiopia, the unconquered, was going to be invaded by Italy, which, by the way, had lost 2 wars to Ethiopia, 1887 at the Battle of Dongali and 1896 at the Battle of Adwa. Nkrumah said in 1935 that when he saw that Ethiopia was invaded by Italy, he said that he swore that he was going to dedicate all his life to fight for freedom. So leaders like Langston Hughes and many others, Langston Hughes, like the iconic figure of the Harlem Renaissance, attended Lincoln University. So you can see that that school, that institution, there are many other names, Thurgood Marshall, who were there and somehow who contributed to give to Lincoln University an enduring legacy of freedom and justice, not only for black people in the United States, for Africans and for Africa. Nkrumah then comes there. And then after 4 years, he graduated in 1939. And then Nkrumah, when he returned to Ghana, 1947, going through England, involved in the Manchester Congress of 1945, which was organized under the leadership of W.B. Du Bois, who was one of his mentors, and then with the collaboration of George Padmore from Trinidad, who also had a great influence on Kwame Nkrumah. When Nkrumah became the leader of Ghana, they started organizing conferences and meetings to raise the awareness and to bridge the gap. And then people saw a possibility of a black capability when Ghana, the first nation to be independent in black Africa. And then now we know the legacy, we have an idea about the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah. One thing that I will say, which is very important before I finish with this question, is that in 1958 there were two conferences that were organized in Ghana. The first one was the Conference of Independent African States, organized by Kwame Nkrumah. There were leaders of 8 African countries which were independent in that year. And later on, there will be the All African People's Conference organized from December 8 to December 13. There were 300 people who were there. Patrice Lumumba, who was going to be the iconic figure of Congo, was going to be there. Félix Moumié from Cameroon was there. Frantz Fanon from Martinique, who was supporting the Algerian, the struggle against the French, was there. It was a great moment. And by the way, Dr. King was at the solemn ceremony of Kwame Nkrumah in 1958, and Ghana was going to become that land that was welcoming people of African descent from the United States and from other parts. Now, when I finished, when I was doing my work Nkrumah, when I was a student, it was, I can tell you, it was my compass. I loved Nkrumah. I loved Mandela, Sankara, because he was younger, he was still alive when we were young. But Nkrumah has always been my compass because I always believed in the unity of Africa. Finished my studies, looking for a job. People rejected me a couple of times, a little bit disappointed. And then one day, the only place people could take me for me to work was going to be Lincoln University. So when I was doing Pan-Africanism, I never knew that Pan-Africanism could give me a job. And then Dr. Poe, who was the one who helped who helped me into Lincoln University, said he said that it fought for me because of Pan-Africanism, and I did not know that Pan-Africanism could give me a job one day. Now, when I do things, and then people hear that I am teaching at Lincoln University. And then people know that I have tried for years to contribute to the preservation of the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah, of Mandela, Sankara, but we talk about Kwame Nkrumah. And people say, when they say, where do you teach? I say, I'm at Lincoln University. Oh, you are walking in the footsteps of Kwame Nkrumah. This is what I hear. It's a great compliment. I'm not even thinking that I can do 1% of what he did, but this is what I hear from people. And then I'm only grateful to the divine and grateful to his spirit which is around me.
Awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for those of y'all out there, Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, y'all should do your research, learn more about the history of the university. And as a former Student Government Association executive president of the university, I would highly encourage you to enroll. It's an amazing place, very family-oriented environment, family-oriented culture with a rich legacy. So that spirit of the ancestors and the motivation to want to become an amazing leader and develop into a global change maker, that all exists at the university that he teaches at, that I currently attend, and will be graduating in the spring of 2025, Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. So shout out to Lincoln, and shout out to Dr. Poe for getting Dr. Gnaka there. So
Shout out to Dr. Patricia Joseph. Dr. Poe fought for me, but the one who took the decision to hire me was Dr. Patricia Joseph.
Let's go.
And shout out also to the president, Dr. Brenda Allen, for her leadership.
Shout out Dr. Allen.
So, yes.
Okay.
Awesome. So my next question would be, in recent years in universities across the globe, we've seen a trend where African students decide to pursue STEM degrees over humanities degrees, and specifically over anything related with Africana studies. And some of this is because people are passionate for the STEM degrees, but others are really because of the financial motivation that comes with having a STEM degree. And so I would like to ask, how does the trend affect the future generation of Black leaders and representatives in the political field?
I am not worried. I'm not worried at all. Because, yeah, people can do STEM, they can do science, they can do what they want to do. Uh, because we are there. When I say we are there, because my faith in the redemption of Africa is strong. And then I'll talk about myself, but there are many. We want many more, but there are many people who are doing what they can to raise the awareness about the fate of Africa. And then one day, I think I read a book written by a European. I don't have the title of the book. People were writing, and they were worried about the impact of the artificial intelligence. And then they were talking, and then one of the writers said that there's a trend, for people to be able to work with those machines. They realize that those who have a greater sense of critical thinking, those who have majored in humanities, will be the people that they want to hire in order to work in the fields of during the boom of artificial intelligence. I don't know what it means, but this is what he said. In other words, not everything has to be scientific. Somehow, the people that will have to to lean or to think about some of the ability that they have as experts in humanities, to deal, with that scientific revolution that we are experiencing, all of us. You see, so because of that, people can do the education, but at the same time, there will always be that possibility of those scientists to understand the significance of anything that is about Afrocentricity, about Pan-Africanism, because racism is there. Sooner or later, they will experience it. Sooner or later, they will understand that it's not about the individual beings, but it is about the collective being of Africa and its people. So because of that, yes, when I say we are there, yes, we're doing conferences, interviews, meeting people, and there's also a concept that I developed that I call the law of the favorable historical factors. We may think that, okay, the world is going this way, and there are things that will happen for people to wake up. Yeah, for me, yeah, there will be always the importance of teaching the history of Africa, the real one, Afrocentric history, the history of Pan-Africanism, the civilization of African Americans, and the revolution of Haiti, and many other elements.
So in that regard, do you expect a downward or upward trajectory of Black representation in global politics?
Oh, it can't be done. Well, no, it's not possible. Everything that is happening, it is for our redemption. You see, today, you can see the crisis that is happening. Sometimes when I talk to Africans, they know this. Oh, yes, our leaders are corrupt and so and so. But when there is of course, many of them are. But people who were against the International Criminal Court, we were against the International Criminal Court. But people who were against the International Criminal Court were people like Museveni. But even though people say he was protecting himself, people like Kagame, we may not like him, but some of our leaders were the one who stood against the international order. When Vladimir Putin of Russia organizes a summit, a Russia-Africa summit, he invites the African leaders. When they go there, it is not me, it is not Ash, it's not the people who on the street, it's not those intellectuals. Sasungeso from Congo, and many others, Mangwagwa from Zimbabwe, they defied all the pressure, the hurdles that the European put into place to prevent them from going to Russia, and they still did it. It's an act of what? I would say bravery. It's an act of defiance. You see what I'm saying? So, and I'm talking about those leaders. I'm not talking about people who have vision like Nkrumah. Do you understand?
Right.
And then we will be seeing many other leaders. When I was talking about Senegal, and I forgot to talk about it because I did not want to give a longer, maybe I did not want to give a longer answer. There are some youngsters in Senegal who came to power. They're in the 40s. Senegal was a colony of France. And then they campaign on the platform of Pan-Africanism in Senegal. People say you cannot be in the Francophone world and talk about Pan-Africanism and then win an election. They did. They suffered. Some of them died. And they won the election. The two leaders were in prison. They were released maybe less than 2 weeks before the beginning of the campaign. And then the leader of the party, Pastef Ousmane Sonko, could not run because they prevented him from running. And his party, they chose another guy who was with him in prison. His name is Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Bassirou Diomaye Faye became the candidate, and they won the election in Senegal. As we speak, that's also part of the history of Africa. So many things like that will be happening, and then it's going to be upward. It cannot be downward.
Great.
Okay, so my next question for you is, what is Pan-Africanism and the Ubuntu philosophy, and how do they complement each other?
Okay, Pan-Africanism is an idea, it's a word, it's a process, it's a public policy, it's an ideology, it's a movement about the unity of Africa and its people who are fighting in solidarity for the sovereignty, for their sovereignty. Number two, because they have to fight against respective systems of oppression, exploitation like slavery, colonialism, neocolonialism, apartheid, segregation, and Jim Crow. And then because they have a common experience, wherever they are, as people of African descent, they felt the need to fight for their freedom. So that movement was articulated since the beginning of the 20th century, even though there were some factors and processes that preceded the actual articulation of the movement that we saw since the beginning of the 20th century. During the evolution of the movement, people had competing approaches to the Pan-African movement about geography, about race, about ideology, and about methodology, and about the use of violence. Conflicting and competing approaches. For people not to go too far, in the case of the Civil Rights Movement in the United States, King was in favor of the non-violence approach. Malcolm X was in favor of what? Defend yourself by any means what? Necessary. So the same thing happened in the case of Africa. Some people say, you know what? We want to be free. We want to do an armed struggle. Some other people say, no, we have to do that in peaceful ways. So I'm not going to take too much time to talk about that, but I just want to talk about one element which is related to the Ubuntu philosophy, which is what? The question of Pan-Africanism and ideology. In the case of Africa, there were so many ideologies people tried to embrace. Some were claiming capitalism, some other ones were claiming socialism, some other ones were claiming communism, and some other ones were claiming African socialism. Julius Nyerere from Tanzania was claiming African socialism, which is Ujamaa, which is about familyhood. Leonard Prague is the one who used that concept, and I like it, that I want to quote it, which is the narratives of return. It means that when African countries became independent, many of them, even though they were embracing those ideologies that were coming from overseas, they were claiming an African value system. Even though they did not opt for one or many of them, they were thinking that, okay, we can be capitalist, we can be socialist, but we still need to acknowledge or recognize that our culture is common and it is different from the ideologies that we are receiving from overseas. So they did it. And now, in the context of the narratives of return, Kwame Nkrumah put together conscientism. Julius Nyerere spoke about Ujamaa. Some other people talk about the Mad. And then with the rise to power of Nelson Mandela, the Ubuntu philosophy, which is about humanness, humanity, collectivism, collective humanism. So that philosophy was going to be promoted, and then to the point that many scholars wrote about it. And then I do claim that Ubuntu philosophy as the pillar of a new dispensational Pan-Africanism. Contrary to Kwame Nkrumah, who was talking about scientific socialism, I think that Ubuntu, which is spread across the continent of Africa, should be that value system, that endogenous ideological framework around which Africa can claim its unity, Africa can claim its cultural and linguistic unity, Africa can claim its relation or its correlation with the ancient Egyptian civilization. That's why I talk about it.
How do you think these two concepts provide a framework for achieving stability and progress in the African continent?
I will talk, when we do our conversation with you, I will talk about it, but I'm going to tell you quickly. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you that question, so I'm not going to talk about it, because if I talk about it, you guys will be able to answer easily.
Okay.
But so listen, Ubuntu is a Pan-African framework. Pan-Africanism, it is about the unity of Africa and Africanist people. We want to think about shared prosperity. The paradigm that is in force as we speak is about neoliberalism, which is about rational choice, which is about individualism, which is about the Washington Consensus, which is about less state, which is about privatization, which is about a small group of people enjoying the resources while the masses are living in poverty. That is the paradigm that is in force, that everyone thinks that they should not challenge. We say that when we bring some paradigms that can be that can talk about humanity or humanness or humanness, or which are about sharing, compassion, then therefore you know that if your humanity depends on the humanity of others, you're not going to be in power and then steal the money of the entire country just for your family and for yourself. You know, if you have that ideology, everything that you do is about empowering others. It is about sharing prosperity. It's about advancing the cause of Africa for the benefit of the children of Africa and for the benefit of the future generation of Africa. So this is our Pan-Africanism. You keep the resources.
What's up, y'all? We're back. There were some technical difficulties. If you're looking closely and you're an observant person, you'll notice a change in the video. I'm not going to say anything to you, but if you notice the change, comment the change. So let's get back to the interview. We're going to go to the next question. My question for you is, Pan-Africanism is often associated with male figures. Why do you think this is the case? And who would you consider to be your favorite female Pan-Africanist?
Many of the Pan-Africanist leaders who contributed to advance the cause of Pan-Africanism were males. You know, the first Pan-African conference was organized by Henry Sylvester William. The second series of the Pan-African Congresses by W.B. Du Bois. Marcus Garvey was the one who organized the Pan-African Conventions, or the conventions of the UNIA. Kwame Nkrumah organized he started the series of the All African People's Conferences. So we know the contributions of women, but at the same time, because those males were great men of history, and then what they wrote, it was about their contributions, and what people wrote, it was about them. That's why we have the impression that women have not done much about the Pan-African history. They have, or they did. George Padmore, for instance, from Trinidad, who was an architect of the Pan-African, the Manchester Congress in 1945, and also the chief architect of the 1958 All-African People's Conference. He was helped in the organization of those events, particularly the second one or the latter, by his wife. And then we know the contribution of W.B. Du Bois. And then, so there are many women who have done great things in the Pan-African. Anna Julia Cooper was one of them. But I will choose, I'm tempted, I'm debating between two. The Maddie Halls, a black American lady, who was going to be one of the first, to put together a women's organization with the ANC. And she was married to A.B. Zuma, who was the leader of the ANC. But I will choose Winnie Mandela. I will choose Winnie Mandela because of a heroic struggle when Mandela was in prison. She became the face of the struggle. And then growing up, we have like a great admiration both for Nelson Mandela and for Winnie Mandela. And because of that, and despite everything, beside the missteps, and then some of setbacks, I think that for me, she's the greatest female Pan-Africanist because of what she did, for the struggle against apartheid, and the inspiration that she gave to millions in the world.
Great. Just to draw on to that question, what contributions do you find most inspiring from female leaders within the Pan-African movement? And how do you think their perspectives as women enrich the broader narrative of African unity and empowerment?
Yeah. Since the beginning, and we have to know that, since the beginning, I mentioned Anna Julia Cooper was one of the greatest, to be involved in the Pan-African movement since the beginning. We have the two wives of Marcus Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey, who was the co-founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And we have Amy Jack Garvey, who wrote the philosophy and the opinions of Marcus Garvey and who contributed to preserve Marcus Garvey's legacy. And many others. I spoke about Winnie Mandela in the case of South Africa, Albertina Sisulu in the case of South Africa, Maddie Halls in the case of South Africa, Angela Davis, and several other women who contributed greatly to the narrative about on Pan-Africanism. W.B. Du Bois' wife, who also played a major role. And we can talk about several other who have done great things and then who seem to be forgotten by history. But we now there is there are people are revisiting the history of Pan-Africanism, and people are highlighting the contributions of women in that conversation, and then there is no way we can talk about Pan-Africanism without the contributions of women. In 1927, the Pan-African Congress, which was organized in New York under the leadership of W. Du Bois, it was mainly organized by women. Jerry Stark Augusto, who was involved with the civil rights movement in the United States, was involved in the Pan-African Congress, which was organized in Dar es Salaam, I believe, and then I think in 1974. Some of the things that she put together, she was talking about a theory of complexity as she was trying to analyze how the different groups came together in order to fight for freedom and justice. So, on the theoretical level, and then on the social activism level, and then on the level of articulation of theories about Pan-Africanism, and about the preservation of legacies of their respective partners, and also on the narratives that they put out there about their own contributions. Yeah, it is established that women did great in the history of Pan-Africanism.
Awesome.
So we're going to stay on the topic of women in this discussion. And I have another question related to the role of women in movements such as Pan-Africanism and things along the lines of that. So when implemented properly and in the ideal sense of what Pan-Africanism means in the African continent and African countries, how would Pan-Africanism culturally encourage women empowerment, and what improvements would we see in women equality and the advancement of women and their role in society?
Yeah, it's a very important question. Very important question, because even though I think I should have said that, even though women contribute greatly to the articulation, to the advancement of Pan-Africanism, somehow it was not clearly established the contribution, the massive contribution of women in the history of Pan-Africanism. For instance, one thing I can tell you, for instance, when the conference of the All African People's Conference was organized in Ghana, from December 8th to December 13, 1958, which was the first major Pan-African conference. During that conference, there were more than 200 delegates, but there were only 8 women. So Nkrumah had the support of women who were fighting for freedom, but somehow that major moment in the history of Pan-Africanism, even though the women contributed in order to help in the organization of the Congress, of the conference, but when you talk about the representation of women during that conference, there were no more than 8 official delegates there were no more than 8 official women delegates during that conference. And then in the work that I'm doing, I'm working on that conference, and I'm trying to highlight the contribution of different people, particularly women, with regard to the 1958 conference. So this is one of the things that we saw, but at the same time, like I said, I have mentioned some of the names of women who have done great things about Pan-Africanism. I can even give the name of Aimé Césaire's wife, Susan Césaire. I think that's her name. There are some other names of 2 sisters in France from Martinique, I think from Martinique, from the Caribbean. They were, according to many, the real architects of the movement called Negritude, which is associated to Léopold Sédar Senghor from Senegal and Aimé Césaire from Martinique. But the 2 sisters, Sister Nardal, Paulette and Jean, were the ones in the living rooms. They were organizing different meetings, and then they were the ones who were the first to somehow think about that movement called Negritude. So yes, all those things, it is out there, but we need to highlight those contributions of women. And so this is what I can say, to answer your question.
Great. On to the next question. I think I'd like to appeal to your time working in the Jubilee 2000 Coalition as president for the Ivory Coast. And some of the issues you touched on was debt relief for African countries. And we can still see that, African countries continue to accumulate substantial debt within both the Western and Eastern nations. And some can argue that these debts continue to perpetuate neocolonialism. So how do you assess the effectiveness of your efforts back then compared to the current challenges we face now?
Oh yeah, it was a moment. It was a moment of transition in my life. I think I was going back to that social activism dimension. And I was also about to leave the country, Ivory Coast, to go to the United States. And then I had gone to Italy and then to England. It was a major moment back then. Uh, you guys were like maybe you not maybe you were not born yet or you were too young. But one thing that was happening, people were dissatisfied with liberalism, with capitalism, and there was a huge movement, across the globe to fight against the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank policies. So social activists across the globe were organizing and then to go against those Bretton Woods institutions. And this is how, in that context, some in England and France, in England and Italy, launched that movement called Jubilee 2000 Coalition. Jubilee, it is about remission of debts according to the scriptures after every 50 years, and they use that concept in order to mobilize people across the globe. I was young and I was involved in that movement. And then in the country, in Ivory Coast, the leaders of the opposition and those who were in power somehow did not support our efforts. But in my articulation of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, uh, as I'm talking about the new tenets of the new dispensation of Pan-Africanism, the cancellation of poor countries' debt, of African debt, is one of the tenets of my articulation of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century.
Okay, so to extend on the question that was previously asked, how do the repercussions of poverty and the desire for those impoverished to pursue financial stability affect the advancement of members of the African diaspora?
Yeah, so when we talk about Pan-Africanism, or when you talk about self-determination, when you talk about emancipation of Africanist people, listen, we want to be free, but we also, like people in the United States, we pursue happiness too. Yeah, so it's not
Everybody trying to get a bag.
all of us. People want to be happy. We want to be able to, to enjoy the resources of your land.
Right.
So we are not just talking about Pan-Africanism just as like a narrative or a theoretical framework, but we want to see that implemented like on a practical way. We want people to be able to create businesses. We want people to be prosper. Mm-hmm. We want people to understand that we have to engage in collective projects for a communal and then collective empowerment of people across the borders within a Pan-African integrated development framework. So these are the things that we see. So, and it is true, if people see that those who are talking about Pan-Africanism are conducting projects that can lead to the fight against poverty and that can promote prosperity, that can promote shared prosperity, yes, many people will understand the relevance, the importance, the significance of Pan-Africanism in economic terms.
Right. Great answer. My next question would probably be, there's a study that was conducted in 2023 by the Wilson Center, where they found out that Africa's median age is 19, meaning that the greatest population in Africa is that of the young people. But at the same time, Africa's leaders have a median age of 63, and I can't help but feel like there's a sort of disconnect between the leaders in power and the people they tend to serve, majority of whom are the youth. And you tend to find that when politicians are looking for votes among the members of their nations and they're campaigning, they appeal very much to the young people, and they make so many promises. Case in point, my country, Kenya, where you find the current president appeals so much to the youth, and at the moment, the youth are very dissatisfied with his form of governance. So how do you think this gap and this disconnect of where young people feel ignored or their voices aren't being heard by politicians, how do you think we can bridge the divide and ensure that the voices of the young people are included in shaping Africa's future?
Yeah. So this is maybe one of the few times I hear that question in my interviews, but I think that we may make a mistake, and then I'm going to flip a little bit what we're doing. So you are suggesting that African countries be governed by people who are 22, 23, 24, 25.
No, I'm looking for suggestions from you on how we can bridge the divide where, the young people can feel heard by the leaders, depending, no matter the age. So
Okay.
wherever, if you're as young as the population, or if you're as old as, the oldest president in Africa, the young people just want to feel heard. So how do you propose we can have the young people?
Yeah. Okay. So you gave a good answer. It's not that I was testing you, but you gave a good answer. Yeah. The most important thing according to how I see things is that it's about the vision. The most important thing is about the vision, and it's about the seriousness about the implementation of the vision. If you have a clear vision, so I'm not in a leadership position in my country, but people who know me, they know that everything that I do is about others and it is about younger people. It's about others and it's about younger people. Everything that I do. And I'm not the only one in Africa. There are some people who want to do the right thing. When we teach, when we give interviews, it's about raising the awareness of our people. So, of course, I understand that I see and I agree that there are people who are not doing the right thing, and people may think that it is because of their age. I think it is because of their incompetence. It is because of the lack of vision. Because to talk about Mandela, when Mandela became president, he was 75. But when he came out of prison, people thought he was even outdated. There was a debate in South Africa during the negotiation from 1990 to 1994. When they saw that he was not going as fast as they wanted. People were criticizing Mandela, and they said that the guy, he spent too much time in prison, he didn't know what he was doing. But they say Mandela was the one who was going to lead South Africa from apartheid from the end of apartheid to a multiracial democratic society in South Africa. Lula da Silva of Brazil. As we speak now, Lula da Silva, I think it may be like 80 or 70, 80. He was in power. And I think he tried so many times. And then after 2 terms, Lula left the power. And then the right-wing people in Brazil went after him. And then they stopped the regime of Dilma Rousseff, who was the lady who was chosen for Lula's party to be there. And then they went after Lula and they put him in prison. And then for something that was not even serious, later on they realized that, it was injustice. They freed Lula. And many in Brazil of his political party say, you know what, you should come back to power or you should run. Lula, even though he was not the Lula we knew when he was in his 60s, Lula defeated, as we speak, is the president of Brazil. He's close to 80, and he seemed to be doing what people want. So for me, age is not the problem, it's the vision, and it is about the seriousness of meeting the needs of people. Of course, young people have to be heard. And then people have to take into account the needs of young people. In Rwanda, young people that's the part of even though Kagame is not my favorite, but we know that he's somehow giving the opportunity to young people to express themselves in his country. So people can do similar things. Many have done similar things, and then people can continue to do those things so that young people can be empowered. They can be given responsibilities in the society so that they can implement what they think it is supposed to be implemented for the youth and for the country.
Okay.
So earlier in the interview, we talked about Pan-Africanism and the Ubuntu philosophy. So my question for you is, while you described Ubuntu philosophy a bit, can you please tell us what Ubuntu philosophy would look like in practice? So a society rooted in Ubuntu philosophy where all of the citizens within that society believed it, they practiced it, they embodied it. What type of behaviors and customs would that society have?
If Ubuntu philosophy is about values of interconnectedness, about interdependence, sharing, compassion, consensus, integrity, and then many other human values, the beautiful values like in the human nature. So if we want to have a society based on the values of Ubuntu, it means that we have to create structures in the society to reduce the negative influence of of values that are anti-Ubuntu, individualism, corruption, lack of integrity, and many others that we see today in the African society or in the leaders, many of the leaders that are ruling over Africa. So how do we put Ubuntu into practice? In the case of the United States, we see that private ownership is one of the values of the American society. And then many, in the name of that value, in the name of liberalism, in the name of economic freedom, many understand that they have to undertake some projects in order to claim that private ownership value in the American society. In the case of Ubuntu, if people understand that they have to put emphasis on community, they have to put emphasis on solidarity, the school, the church or the mosque, the state, the family, all those agencies in the society have to be conditioned in order to promote a Ubuntu-driven society by promoting the values that we are talking about. In other words, when you see a need, when you see a need, you feel the need, or you feel a need. In other words, people are living in many parts of Africa, and they wait for the government to come and do the things. The government is led by people who have failed themselves, who have failed the country, and people are living like in poverty, like in dirt, and then they hope to see the government coming to save them. You see it as an individual, and you know that it is not good for you. What do? Get up, go, and then try to fill that need. When you do it for yourself, you are doing it for the community. Oh, yes, it is not bad to be rich. I want to see many rich people in the society, but when you are rich, you have to be rich for yourself, for your family, and then for your community. Then you enrich yourself in order to empower and enrich the community. This is how we can practically put Ubuntu into practice in the society. Or when people when people try to do savings, how do we do it? Do we do individual savings? We do the individual savings system, or we encourage the community to do a collective saving system in the society? In the case of Africa, we have that susu. In French, we call that tontine. When people come together, they put their monies together, and rotatively, each member of the group get the amount of money of all the members of the group for every month. This is what we do. It is part of the culture, it's part of the society. How do we use that system in order to mobilize people so that they can save collectively in order to be able to get some loans from the bank in order to invest those that the funding into collective projects in the society. These are things that we've been thinking about that we can use in order to talk about Ubuntu like into practice, particularly like in the field of business, in the field of development.
So, with that being said, is that already, would the equivalent of that practice be taxes in the U.S.? Just taxes, taxpayer dollars, how they're used for the social contract, public goods, public resources, national security, things of that nature. Taxpayers, we're all taxpayers.
Yeah, this
Would that be the same concept?
no, it's like this is the state doing that.
Okay.
But it is not sufficient. Is what I'm saying. It's not sufficient. Every responsible state has to do that.
Right.
You collect taxes from the individuals, and then you make sure that you can provide healthcare that Americans like the universal healthcare that Obama brought to the U.S. recently. But in countries like France, it's at another level.
Okay.
So there should be like a sense of social goods in the society, that the state has to make sure that the state protects the most vulnerable people in the society,
Okay.
the children, the orphans, the women, those who are jobless. We understand that, but what I'm talking about, it is how we bring a culture of collectivity in the society, a culture of community in the business of the society. For instance, if you in your family, for instance, let's say you are a family of brothers and sisters. So I take the example of Kezia. Kezia can have her own saving as an individual. She can be married one day, and she has what? Saving Kezia and her husband, right?
Right.
And then maybe for the children. What I'm suggesting is that if Kezia has three brothers or 4 sisters, the siblings of Kezia and Kezia herself, they come together beside what they're doing for their respective nuclear families. They put money together for the larger family, so that money can be used for what? Funerals, and for any other the needs that they may satisfy for the collective in the society. I am not seeing that in Africa the way it should. Do you understand what I'm saying? When a state led by such a leader does that, and then this, that we have already mobilized seed money, the bank can come and put money in to support the projects that those people may want to undertake in order to do something collectively. That system, we don't have that in Africa the way it should be. So beside what you're talking about, which every irresponsible state should do, like in the society.
Okay. That's powerful. My next question would be, we've heard about your story as a scholar, as you fought against injustice, and now you've become a champion for Pan-Africanism and Ubuntu in Africa. What has been your support system as you face life's challenges and commitment to your vision for Africa's redemption and unity through Pan-Africanism?
This is a very difficult question. It's a difficult question because, and I'm going to try and answer the question in a strange way. My first support system is metaphysical. So those who believe in, those who are fundamentalists will say that it is God, but then I will say it is God. And then on the metaphysical level, my second set of support system comes from the ancestors. I am tapping in the energy of those who preceded me. I tap in the energy of King. I tap in the energy of Malcolm X, and I tap in the energy of Kwame Nkrumah. I tap in the energy of Nelson Mandela. I tap in the energy of all those who shed tears, blood and sweat in order to advance the cause of Africa and its people. That is my second set of support system. And then for when I talk about God and the divine, and then I talk about those, and those who know me, this is some I usually don't talk like that in front of the camera, but as you ask me, so that's why when we started the struggle, and then sometimes when I saw those Africans who did not believe like in Pan-Africanism, who thought that because if they were not there, there was no way I was going to do what I was doing. Then for me, I did not know. I don't know what they were thinking about, because I was convinced that I am doing or I was doing that was like advancing my mission on earth. So when you are doing your mission on earth, you have what? The support of the divine. Right? Particularly when you are pursuing your personal legend. And Paulo Coelho from Brazil gave a powerful statement in one of his novels that I love. He said that when you are pursuing your personal legend, the entire universe conspires to make it happen.
Right.
Okay. Now, of course, in the physical realm, I have met friends, peers who believed in the struggle. They are not many, and then we have strategized. And then today, because of their resilience, because of our seriousness, when people talk about Pan-Africanism, people think about us as some people who have been serious about the struggle, and they seek to hear from us, and they seek to interview us. So yes, this is so my answer is on 3 levels.
Great. Amazing.
It's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
My next question is, Pan-Africanism is rooted in the belief that members of the African diaspora have a common struggle and a shared destiny. The question part is, in your own words, can you describe how you visualize that destiny coming into fruition and what it would look like today in the 21st century?
I am going to surprise you with that, with my answer. So sometimes when we talk about Pan-Africanism, people think that, yes, the entire continent of Africa is not united. Africans are incapable of coming together as one. And then they compare Africa to other parts of the world, many other elements. Yes, we have not been able to create a greater federal state in Africa. But one thing people have to know is that there is no continent on the face of Earth that is like united. I think Prof. Chanel was telling me, I think it's Oceania, or I don't know which continent. That is a continent and there is a block. I don't know which one. But as I'm talking about the traditional continent, Europe, you don't have the entire Europe united under one government. In the Americas, we have 4 types of Americas. North America, composed of the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico. And then you have Central America, you have Southern America, and then what I call Insular America, composed of all those islands. So the country of America, 4 greater blocks. So in the case of Africa, yes, we have 54 countries. Even though we don't have like those greater states, we just have to know that South Africa is an union. It was composed of 4 territories: Orange Free State, Transvaal, Natal, and Cape Colony. This is how South Africa was created. Nigeria was a combination of 3 states: Eastern, Western, and Northern. So there are many territories like that like in Africa. Zanzibar and Tanganyika gave birth to what? Tanzania.
Right.
So people have to know that. So people they think that we have some results, but of course we want bigger bigger federal states on the continent of Africa. That is the political level. Pan-Africanism is an idea of union, communion, solidarity between Africanist people. And I don't want to waste our time tonight. Just know that since the beginning, it was like in the 18th, 19th century, to just mention black Americans, they sought to connect with Africa. In the 18th, 19th century, they were creating institutions in the United States, and then they were using the word Africa in the name of the institution they were creating. An example, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, 1816, 1817, created by Richard Allen, like in Pennsylvania. So things like that, it always existed, and there has always been a connection between different groups of Africans from generation to generation. In the field of music, fashion, the kente cloth that people use during graduation at Lincoln University, at Howard University, comes from Ghana or comes from many of those countries where the kente in Ghana, in my country, people call that kita. That people use, it is part of, it is a Pan-African, like a fashion, like an outfit or an artifact or a tool in the Pan-African vision in the field of fashion that everyone is using when people do graduation in different parts of the world. Music. Last time we saw Michael Jackson with his a clip. I don't even know the name of the clip. When
The music video we watched.
yes,
It was the Remember the Time music video.
Remember the Time.
In the Egyptian wardrobe.
Then somehow Michael, we saw the Egyptian civilization, the Michael Jackson that is not known as the greatest militant of all ages, but he did that. So we have so many examples, people talking about freedom and justice in different parts. So be in fashion, be in music, be in art, different elements, we see that great sense of community. Bob Marley has a song, Africa Unite. Zimbabwe in 1980 when Zimbabwe became independent. So yes, I don't want to go too long or too far. Just know that Pan-Africanism is part of the African life and the life of Africans and people of African descent in several aspects, but this need to be consolidated in the field of development, in the field of politics, so that we can create greater federal states on the continent of Africa to reduce the division like that Africans are experiencing.
Amazing. Amazing. We've come to the final question of today's interview. And we'd like to ask, if today was your final day on Earth,
God forbid.
what would your last message be for the world and humankind?
Okay, so what we will do is that,
Make sure when you answer this, you look right at the camera.
Yep.
I'm looking at purity, I'm looking
To
at
the
the camera.
world. Shout out Purity behind
I'm looking
the camera,
at
the camera woman.
we're looking at the world right over there. So one thing I think that I'm going to talk about Dr. King. As one quotation, people say he was the one who put it together. Some other people say he was not one. He was not the one. It's like King said that the arc of the moral the arc of the moral universe is long, but it always bends towards justice. So we are not wasting our time. So I am an example because you guys asked me so many beautiful questions. One of them is that my support system. I did not benefit from like a real support system in the physical world. I did not get people who are who are millionaires to come and put money at my disposal. But I believed in the vision that I received, and I believed in my calling. I believed in what the Hindus call Dharma, the purpose of my life, and I believed that even if I did not have the support of people, because that is the purpose of my life, that I needed to continue, which I did with the support of a few, and then leaning on the divine, tapping in the energy of the ancestors, and then we were convinced. And then today, there is a renaissance of Pan-Africanism, and then we see that many on the continent of Africa, even the diaspora, who are trying to associate themselves with the Ubuntu philosophy. So, yes, if today was the last word, I will tell people who have their respective visions and then who are pursuing their respective dreams to continue, and knowing that the world is moving towards unity and towards justice, and then that is the most important thing. So we have that sense of gratification because we are doing what we think is right, and as we do what is right for our people, we think that we are contributing to advance the civilization of mankind, and then we are doing something that fits like in a greater cosmic and metaphysical plan as ordained by the divine.
It's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Casey, if you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think it was a pleasure to be able to interview such a great mind and to listen to all the words you have to say. It's very inspiring for someone like me, I haven't really been like shown so much passion for Pan-Africanism, but I feel like you have reignited that spark in me. I'd like to thank you for that. And it's been, a very short time we've spent together, but it's very fruitful. I would like to ask you, to keep on inspiring the future generation, the current generations we have, and to continue being the great man you are. Also to thank Hashon for letting me be his co-host. I'm sure he did a great job.
Yeah, and I want to say it now. I want to give you the flowers, but for those of you who are paying attention to what's taking place and where we're at, I am in Ghana right now. I'm very passionate about traveling, and for those of you who've been supporting my journey, this is the man right here who said, "What's up? You should come to Ghana." I'm looking at him like, "Yo, like, trying to go to Ghana? Yeah, I'll definitely come." But him and I both know that there's always some dysfunction, disorganization. But before him and I ever knew each other and talked deep on a personal level or whatever, he was supporting me from afar. And the energy and genuine vibes and support that I got from him was something that I didn't ask for. There was no game. There was nothing about it. It just was genuine. He seen something in me. And again, same to Kezia's point, just being around him recently, it's like that ancestral calling and him using the metaphysical support system that he said. Somebody else said to describe this man, they feel as though the ancestors, he has the spirit of the ancestors. And that's something that I wholeheartedly agree with. So I want to thank you so much. It's an honor to be here in your presence, to know that somebody is as committed and doesn't sleep at night. I don't sleep at night either. This man says he doesn't sleep because he's so moved by the work that he's doing. He knows that, he's trying to get everything done. So thank you so much for your time. I know you got a lot of work to do, but I appreciate you. Lincoln man right here.
One word? Can I say one word?
Of course.
Yes.
I want to thank Sean and Kezia. You guys are young people. I'm telling you, I'm not saying that because you guys complimented me. You can go and watch some interviews and pay attention today, and you see that many of those people who are receiving millions of dollars a year in the United States, they don't know how to ask questions, and then they have not done. Usually they don't even do their homework when they interview people, and that's why many of those interviews are shallow or superficial. I was really impressed. I'm saying that. I was really impressed by the quality of the questions. I did not even know that it was going to be that serious. I'm telling you.
We told him.
I
told him.
I know he told me, but I did not even be seriously. I knew that's okay. You know, they're going to ask questions. You know, maybe the question, but you hear it's like this is maybe one of the first time I've been asked questions I never had before, and many of them. And then so I really want to commend you for that. One thing that we do not say too much, everything we do, we have to be serious. We have to elevate the standards, and you have shown that tonight. I'm really, really happy and pleased. It is also a privilege for me to be in your presence of great minds and great spirits. You don't have to be 70 to be full of wisdom and intelligence and knowledge, and you have shown that like throughout this trip and particularly in this interview. So I commend you for that.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank.
And I'm someone, I always want to show love and gratitude to those that are a part of the process. Ghislaine, I don't know if y'all want to come out here. Purity, you behind the camera. If you want to come out, get the camera time for this last closing remark. Ahmed, you want to pop out too? It's up to y'all. If you want to come for the closing remarks, you know, come around. If y'all want to introduce yourselves before we officially close, shout out to Purity, the camera woman, stepped in. Ghislaine out here offering the support. Ahmed out here offering support, allowing us to use the space. So, if y'all want to say anything.
Hello, I'm Ghislaine. Yeah, I'm honored to be here and hear a lot of wisdom about Pan-Africanism. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Purity. I'm a student at Bremo College, and I'm also an LTT fellow this year. I was just here to listen to this conversation and support these guys, and I'm so glad I was here. Yeah.
Amazing.
Hi. My name is Ahmed Shitobo from Simli Radio. Thank you very much, Professor Gnaka, for giving us a little bit about Pan-Africanism. We are really grateful.
The wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay, so if y'all stay this long, I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all learned a lot. Don't watch this one time and just let it go on. This is something you got to really go back, listen to a couple times. He put a lot of wisdom in this video. So, again, thank y'all for tuning in. Shout out to the team right here. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, do what y'all got to do, and stay blessed. Thank y'all.
Bye. Amazing. Got to the end.